Data centers are literally sucking Illinois' power grid dry.
Grand Rapids is getting a data center, and a lot of people are concerned about it.
You pay for electricity in Southeast Michigan, you should be angry about this.
Your ass up there. Your ass who understands how bad data centers are for.
If you pay for electricity in Southeast Michigan, you should be angry about this. This project is uniquely evil for the following reasons.
Okay.
The power usage, 1.4 gigawatts, is as much as the city of Philadelphia.
Yep.
DTE says they won't raise rates. We've all been lied to by DTE hundreds of times. No extra investment would be needed, and now they're saying they need a $300 million substation. Oracle and OpenAI are only giving $40 million. So that's $260 million on either the taxpayers or the ratepayers.
I feel like this was just kind of non-consensual on many people's parts. The rape of the greater Michigan area, honestly, that's what's happening right now. Yeah, kind of horrifying.
I think that this is a rush job. It's being pushed through by DTE. The township didn't want it. They voted against it. They were strong-armed by a lawsuit.
And they pick on these small communities because there's not enough people there. And they figure they can just push them all over and get what they want.
But most people don't know a data center of this size. We know based on other utility projects, will take up to over 1,000 trucks, heavyweight trucks through town per day.
Yeah.
Which is insane. On top of that, I'm also a published energy researcher. Unfortunately, know what they're trying to do. I'm very mad at DTE. We know what you're doing, informed than you think, and we're organized now.
Get your ass up there. Your ass who understands how bad data centers are for your community, then the old people who are the only people who go to these fucking meetings are going to vote yes because they hear it makes jobs. If you live in a city, this is especially important. I need you to go in and be the most annoying person in the room. This will not create jobs. This will pollute our air and water. This is the ugliest fucking building I can think of.
So this was a very shitty way for me to find out that in Eatonville, Florida, right, which is very close to me, it's just outside of Orlando, which is a predominantly black community, right, historically disproportionate, like a poorer community. In Eatonville, they are building a very large data center. And not only that, but they are close to completion. They are set to be completed by Q1 of next year. And I hadn't heard anything about it because I haven't heard anyone talk about it. I also don't go to Eatonville. I used to go to Eatonville when I used to be vegan like 6 years ago because there was a very good vegan Jamaican food place there, and it's literally been 6 years. But I just found out that of course they're building a data center in a very disproportionate community. And you want to hear something else that's fucked up about it? You want to hear how ghoulish this data company is? You know what they did to manipulate the people of Eatonville and manufacture their consent to build this data center there? They promised the people of Eatonville free Wi-Fi in exchange for this data center being built. So they manipulated these people. They took advantage of a poor community, promising them a utility for free to build this data center that will ultimately cost them more in what it will do to their air quality, the quality of their water, the energy consumption, and the unsustainability of this place. It will vastly outweigh the benefit of having free Wi-Fi. So they manufactured consent to build this fucking place by taking advantage of a poor community. And I found out about this by reading it on Reddit when I was reading more about the data center being built. And people on Reddit were praising this like it's a good thing. So many people are so detached from the realities of like what these AI data centers actually do to these communities. And that's just, when I read that, dude, I swear to God, we don't hate AI enough. We don't hate AI enough. I hope this place catches on fire. You know what, for real, I don't know. I'm going to be on the lookout now for data centers that are being proposed to be built in my area, and if there are any sort of like meetings on this shit, fucking promise that I'll be there. I will be there pitching a fit. Because this shit is terrible, man.
One of the things about these data centers that are popping up all over the country is that they are owned by private companies, meaning the information that the public knows about the projects coming into their communities is relatively limited. These data centers are huge. The one that was rejected recently in Great Falls, Montana was 569 acres and 2 million square feet. These massive, massive buildings that do bring in quite a bit of construction jobs. But these data centers, they're essentially warehouses for servers. So, you know, if you've ever been in any sort of large building, corporate, hospital, school, there's a computer room and it's just a room of blinking boxes and cords and whatnot. Imagine that at warehouse scale. Like, there's not a ton of jobs. It's not offices. I know that when we hear data centers, we're like, why? There's just not a lot of human jobs. These are massive, essentially, storage centers for computers. And so, again, they promise a lot of jobs, but what jobs are really available for storing computers aside from like security and basic overhead? It consumes, again, so much water that, and Montana and other prairie states, California, Arizona, New Mexico, the desert states down south, we don't have a ton of water to begin with. A lot of states are already dealing with water shortages or water regulations because of the growing populations all across the country. And it's just something that we cannot afford to do. There's also the potential for the high rates of energy usage to somehow be pushed back on the people and not on the companies. If they don't enforce pay what you use, there is limited tax incentive. A lot of places are trying to, we'll bring jobs or we'll bring in money or whatever and give us tax incentives. So there's not a lot of taxes, not a lot of jobs. It's just, and there's the potential for little oversight. And I mean, we already in Montana have monopolies, and we know how that can go. And then finally, the thing that underneath all of these other arguments, it's not bringing in the jobs that it hypes up, terrible environmental outcomes, but also all of it is to power a world, a digital world at the expense of ours. We only get one Earth. And these data centers, there's a philosophical, ethical issue that it's why are we, it's just taking from this world to power a fake one. And so
data centers are literally sucking Illinois' power grid dry, according to a new report released by state agencies. The power-hungry developments are driving the state's power needs and electricity prices to unsustainable highs. The state's grid is projected to face electricity shortages in as little as 5 years from now. The increasingly large power demands from data centers, along with aging coal and gas generators, are set to pose significant challenges for the state's electricity reliability. Illinois residents have already been struggling with high power bills, and those costs are only expected to get worse in the near future. Ameren, the utility that serves the majority of the state, has had to pay higher and higher costs for its electricity from regional grid operators. For example, it paid roughly $30 per megawatt day in 2024, but in 2025, that skyrocketed to more than $600 per megawatt day.
I have a question I'd like to pose. Is there anybody in this room that wants a data center in Stark County?
No!
I'm here in rural Northwest Indiana, where residents are fighting back against big tech's data center invasion, in contrast with the Trump administration's ardent commitment to big tech's AI agenda.
It'll be a policy of the United States to do whatever it takes to lead the world in artificial intelligence.
We don't want this. It is not going to benefit us in any way.
To say that this thing is not going to affect your electric bills in any way, shape, or form, you got to be off your rocker.
It's tough enough as it is to live here with the poorest county. So when we add this, there is no more jobs coming with this. Sometimes it's hard to buy a gallon of milk here.
The race to build nuclear weapons almost destroyed us. How do we know that these data centers and AI will not destroy us?
I think we would be better served to be the escape for other communities that put in data centers.
So the room was unified. We had about 225 folks come out, and I'd say a good fifth of the entire room lined up to speak out not only for the data center moratorium, but in favor of a complete countywide ban.
Yes, I am in favor of this moratorium, but more than that, I am in favor of an absolute ban on these data centers. We should laugh in the face of these out-of-touch billionaires who are suggesting this.
You hear us at the polling places every few years. You need to hear us now. I don't want a moratorium. I want a lifetime ban.
I am in favor of a total ban. Total.
Yeah. I generally want to know, as a board member, why we aren't able to hear your opinion on the data centers.
In fairness to this lady's question, ma'am, my name is Howard Bailey, and I am against data centers.
And Stark County isn't alone. 3 counties in Indiana and several others in Georgia, Missouri, Illinois, and beyond have passed their own moratorium measures halting new data center proposals.
Other counties in Indiana and across the country are hitting pause because they recognize these capacity issues. And that's why this 12-month moratorium is so important. We cannot approve projects who don't have the capacity to.
Harlingen, Texas is about to be swallowed by a monstrous hyperscale data center. UK-based Enuis Energy is unleashing a 1,780-acre beast that will devour 1 gigawatt of power and $5.9 billion of investment. This isn't progress, this is an invasion. The endless, low-frequency hum from these machines isn't just noise, it's torture. Proven to cause chronic headaches, insomnia, skyrocketing stress, even heart disease. It drives wildlife insane, shattering fragile ecosystems. Located northwest of Valley International Airport, surrounded by homes and right next to Loop 499, thousands of families will be trapped in this relentless drone day and night. What were our city leaders thinking when they invited this nightmare? In a region already choking from drought, this water vampire will suck down billions of gallons for cooling, while residents ration every drop. Your water bills will surge, your electric bills will explode. Texas data centers are already draining aquifers dry, stealing enough water to supply hundreds of thousands of homes, and now it's coming for the Rio Grande Valley. They dangle the promise of over 2,000 jobs, but it's actually a cruel lie. Most are temporary construction roles that vanish once the concrete sets in. What remains? A skeleton crew, a handful of guards in an empty fortress. And you, the taxpayer, are forced to pay for all of it through massive tax breaks and incentives. Your money funneled straight into corporate coffers while schools crumble and roads decay. I have been inside these places, cold, cavernous, deafening ghost towns, no life, no community, just endless racks of servers screaming into the void, serving distant billionaires while destroying everything around them. Go ahead and search data centers destroying towns on TikTok or YouTube if you dare. Watch entire communities poisoned by noise, wildlife fleeing, people driven to despair. And the darkest part? The secrecy. Harlingen city leaders and Economic Development Corporation officials were forced to sign ironclad NDAs, gagged silence, forbidden from telling you the truth. Back in October and November of 2025, the EDC openly admitted that we can't say which project or which company it is. Obviously, we cannot say who they are. These NDAs weren't just paperwork, they were shackles designed to shield negotiations from public eyes and prevent leaks and crush any chance of real community input before the deal was locked in. Residents were kept in the dark, unable to ask questions or demand answers about a project that will forever alter their lives. Only after the beast was too far along did Aeneas Energy's full name finally slip out. This isn't transparency. This is betrayal, corporate secrecy triumphing over the people who live, work, and suffer here. Harlingen, is this the future we deserve? A raw, unforgiving deal sold in the shadows? What are your thoughts? Are you angry yet?
If you're from Lancaster County, you might have heard about the 2 data centers that are being built. According to Public News Service, construction has already started. Frank Arcelio is a member of Lancaster Stands Up, and he's really pushing against these data centers. And he claims that this is going to drive up unemployment rates because it's very unnecessary and really doesn't bring much to the community. And this will also really drive electricity bills too. So officials did negotiate a community benefits agreement. And this basically means that they're required to contribute $10 million to economic growth. So let us know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to follow.
Amazon is planning to build 2 data centers here in Pennsylvania, but how much is that going to cost you? Well, the answer is that it's unknown. However, state officials such as Governor Josh Shapiro say that these data centers are going to create thousands of jobs and just overall really stimulate the economy. But according to Spotlight PA, many of those key details, such as the impact this is going to have on electricity supply and prices, it's really still unknown. And to further incentivize data center development, the state actually recently gave Amazon a sales tax exemption for key equipment. But with these data centers, many people are very concerned about the effects such as electricity prices increase and also some of the environmental impact.
Grand Rapids is getting a data center and a lot of people are concerned about it. Microsoft has quietly been buying land in Gaines Township for about a year. They now control roughly 356 acres near Patterson Avenue, most of it formerly owned by Steelcase. One smaller piece of that land is being rezoned right now, and that's the step that's pushed this into public eye. There's still no final site plan, which means people are reacting to the scale of the project more than the specifics, and the reaction has been real. Public meetings have been packed. Residents are worried about power use, cooling systems, noise, generators, and what a project this large means for the rural edge of the township. This would be Microsoft's first data center in Michigan, and data centers aren't typical industrial buildings. They don't bring in a lot of jobs or traffic, but they do bring massive long-term infrastructure demand, especially around power and water usage. At the same time, projects like this can significantly add to the local tax base and help anchor long-term infrastructure investment, which is why communities even consider them in the first place. Gaines Township also isn't new to this. It already hosts Michigan's largest data center, so the question isn't whether data centers belong here, it's how many, how big, and where. This is one of those projects where the scale alone changes how people feel about growth. When a single user takes hundreds of acres, it's not really about good or bad, it's about what that decision locks in for decades.
So what's going to happen to the Great Lakes if all these data centers keep getting built? You know, these huge complexes used to fuel generative AI that need an insane amount of water to keep their components cool. Between 1 and 5 million gallons a day. Illinois ranks 4th in the nation in data centers with over 220, according to a new report released by the Alliance for the Great Lakes, and is an attractive destination for their construction due to all the fresh water we got around here, both in Lake Michigan, but also underground. And if you're a cash-strapped municipality, how could you say no to some high-tech industry that wants to build a massive job-creating facility in your area? The problem is, more than half that water used by the data centers doesn't return to the ecosystem. It evaporates and functionally disappears for good. And nearly all that water comes from the same municipal water systems that provide our fresh water, to drink. So that makes for an uncomfortable arrangement. We don't know how much water data centers are swallowing up because they generally aren't required to report their usage numbers, and because non-disclosure agreements are common in negotiations with state and municipal governments. And despite all the secrecy, these data centers usually walk away with pretty advantageous tax incentives. Now, the Great Lakes regions are obviously more flush with water than many other parts of the country, so those of us closer to the lakefront aren't at risk of running out anytime soon. But some more distant towns and suburbs are already feeling the effects of diminished groundwater reserves. For example, construction began earlier this year on a pipeline bringing more water to Joliet and other southwest burbs, including Minooka, where, wouldn't you know it, plans for a data center are already underway. So while Lake Michigan isn't going to dry up anytime soon, conflicts over water resources are already starting to creep into the headlines. And all the new data centers will likely only make those problems worse.
If you have those 5 buildings,
excuse me,
the power requirement for those 5 buildings are gonna be bigger than a quarter of power in the whole state of Illinois.
to ask you to sit down.
The developer did not honor their end, and I have all the contracts, emails, and texts to prove it. This letter, in my opinion, was a threat of what will come if we did not sell our properties.
This development has directly impacted my son's life. His bus stop and the park where we used to play and walk to, it's gone. His friends have moved away, leaving him feeling alone.
Now you bought houses on Foster Avenue. Are you coming across the street next?
Wooddale, Illinois. Around 70 families were ordered to vacate their homes, while another 8 families were forced to stay behind to endure what happens when a neighborhood goes abandoned.
They dropped grenades 100 feet from my house.
But this didn't happen recently. It was almost 6 years in the making, and it was a sign that the world we grew up in would never be the same again. Something monstrous was coming, and once let loose, there was no way to stop it.